Hello friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Opimation. For those of you who don't know, my name's Op. I'm a video games animator, and today we will be animating, or should I say reviewing, the Animator Survival Kit book. Now this book is very famous. It was Richard Williams who directed Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's a very, I would say that people who start off in animation, especially when I started and my peers and everyone, we always went to this book for the basic knowledge of walks, runs and jumps. So it's a good book to start with. It's really good, and there's some useful information and gems in there that you can take. But without further ado, let's dive straight into the review. So this book is, let's check it out and have a look. So looking at the table of content, you've got lessons, you've got your why you want this book, time to draw. It's very traditionally based, but it still applies. And you've got the extremes, breakdowns, explains the keys, 3 ways to animate, testing, talks about walks, more on spacing, runs, flexibility, weight, anticipation, takes and accents for lip syncing, timing, the wave and whip principle, dialogue, acting. Okay, so what else has it got? Animal action, that's it, that's the extended bit. Directing and review. So it explains a bit about why this book. I won't go into too much detail about this. This is the history of animation, so it's good to have a read of that. You've got the legends like Art Babbitt, you got a Milk Cow and Frank Thomas there as well, from the 9 Old Men in Soho, London. Little clips there. Anyway, so drawing in time. So it gives a bit of history of the animation, the zoetrope and all that here. So at the start, there's a lot of history of animation is what the book is. Talks about drawing, so it goes for a traditional approach. So these are things that you can study and check out. But I wanted to show you the main things that for like computer animation. I mean, figure drawing is all really good. If the more you can learn about anatomy and stuff, the better you can think more about your posing and stuff like that. So that always helps. But these are the main areas that we want to look at. We want to look at, as explained in some of my videos, we talked about spacing and timing. And again, it goes back to the bouncing ball, right? The bouncing ball says it all. The old bouncing ball example is often used because it shows so many aspects of animation. That this is what I've also, wanted to just stress a lot. The ball is everything, that in timing and stuff. You can create a lot of examples from just the tennis ball. Again, you look here. If you look at one of my videos, we did the same thing, 20 frames. This is over 25 frames. And how it moves and how the spacing can affect it. You can see equally, it's going to go in a constant speed. But then if you're easing in, more drawings near the end and out. Think of this, the same way you can think of it when they talk about the bouncing ball is, imagine you've got a pose here. And then you've got a pose here. You can favor this pose. So there's more drawings here. Then it goes quick, then it goes back into its normal pose, holds. Then it goes into the next one, and then it goes into the normal pose. That's essentially what the bouncing ball is. And that's what it's trying to teach you in terms of like seeing the whole poses as a bouncing ball, and like easing into each pose, knowing which pose to favor, which one to come out of, ease in and ease out. Brilliant example, can't explain it well enough. This book is a bit old, so there's little things like, for example here, Richard Williams talks about Milk Cow, who is considered one of the Michelangelos of animation. Milk Cow, do you ever listen to classical music when you're working? And then he says, I never can do more than one thing at the same time. Or, I've never heard of such a stupid question, what have you. I'm not smart enough to think for the first time. So I mean, sometimes there's advice in here which I think can be a bit didactic, like, don't listen to music when you're animating. But I know quite a lot of people who listen to music when they animate, and really great animators as well, really good animators. So yeah, it's one of those where if it suits you, you do it. That's what I would say about that. And this is to do with more history. So if you want to go through that, you can go through it. Again, principles here. Arcs of action. Talking about in-betweens, breakdowns, extreme poses. So they've given simple examples here. Obviously, nice arc like that. This is wrong. Obviously going straight back, unless you're doing a robotic movement, then that's different. Here it talks more about slow in, easing out. So simple examples like pointing the fingers. So there's some nice examples of spacing and weight that you can check out. Keyframes. But at the end of all this, it gives you like advantages. That was straight ahead animation. It gives you advantages of straight ahead animation. And then you have a pose to pose animation. It gives you examples of that. And then the combination of straight ahead and pose to pose, he feels that there's no disadvantage that he knows of. So a lot of people work in this hybrid method where you do every 4 frames. You key every 3 frames or whatever works for you. Some people key every frame. They put poses on each frame, then they stretch it out on the computer, which is great too. So whatever works for you, you do that. So that is quite good to read. You can read all of this. In pose to pose, it talks about the advantage. We get clarity, point of the scene is clear, structured. We can get nice drawings, clear readable positions, really sculpting out those poses. So it's good to check these out. Good points here. This is more the same stuff. Testing. It was testing animations. So the start of the book is it's a bit traditional. Some of the stuff you will know, some of it you won't find as useful. The dope sheet, people don't normally use that as much in 3D. So, I've never really used it. So, but then these are just like, it's a good read if you want to know a bit about history and everything. More on spacing, you can find that out. What we got here, just simple examples like, when a head turns, instead of having it turn straight, put a little dip, follow the nose as an arc, which is great. We all use little subtle arcs to make our animations feel more organic. Talking about breakdowns, how not to do a breakdown. You don't just do like that and like that. You add a little breakdown. So a common thing they say is that the breakdown makes the animation. So you've got 2 storytelling poses, and the breakdown in the middle makes it. So another good exercise you could do is, you got a pose here. You could get a character and say, you do a pose for a character here and a pose for a character there. How many ways can it get from that pose to that pose? Countless. Limitless. You can have it go down, up. So nice little exercise you can do there for breakdown animations. Arcs, watch your arcs. I talk about this a lot. Figure of 8. When a character jumps, it goes down. Figure of 8 is like when you're doing a walk, the wrist goes like that, but obviously a squash down. So it doesn't have to be a figure of 8 massive. It could even be scaled all the way down really thin. And then it's following a nice arc. Perfect example here. The wrist is right here, following a nice arc. And how arcs are so important, especially when you're doing organic animation, because humans move organically, don't they? So, this is really good. Gives an example of before impact, adding squash and stretch. You may not see this, but you feel it. That's really key. You'll find in animation, you'll do a lot of quick in-betweens when you're doing cartoony animation. And when you do it, when you review it frame by frame, you will see that the character looks broken, but it just works, because even though the poses in the in-between are really quick, they're following an extreme pose, but a nice arc, so it looks fluid, it feels right, it feels good. Classic example here of the frog. Preston Blair had a similar one in the book I did a review on. But yeah, just following down like the bouncing ball, squash and stretch. Here too, if you look here, think of the hips as a ball going down, then coming up, same stuff. Squashing here, that's the in-between we're talking about. Stretching, breaking the in-betweens, really good to get a feel of impact and bit of blur as well. You can put motion blur in there to make it feel better. This is like an example of a yawn. Let's see. These are just notes on traditional animation stuff. But now this is where we come to like the mechanics. So there's a lot of reference in this book when it comes to like walks, runs. So starting off, I would recommend this book starting off. I'll give a conclusion at the end, but as I go, I will let you know how I feel about it. But when I first started, I used to just do all these exercises just to understand the mechanics of how, and every walk, how a walk walks, how a run goes. Every walk and run will have these lines. You see, all these arcs are everywhere. Now, these are so important because, you know, if these are all jagged and wrong, you're not going to get organic, fluid animation. So it stresses that a lot, you know, how the hips go down, then up, upper, up, and then medium, then back down. Yeah, highest point, passing point. So all of these things are really good to practice. Here again, we have examples. Here talks about how the bend is what gives the weight, the straight and the bend gives the illusion of the weight. So what you're seeing here is straight and bend. You're seeing two big contrasts. Animation is all about contrast. That's where you see the changes in the poses. That's what the eye catches. So those contrasts show the feeling of weight. Again, loads of exercises you can do here. Walks, you know, on 16s, on 18s. These are how they used to think back then when they would animate in numbers. You know, these are on, you got what, every 4 frames, every 3 frames, every 2 frames. So these are really good to get out and just do these exercises. You know, you build a bit of confidence, keep doing it over and over. It's very clear as well. The shaded part of the leg, the back part, and then the light part, you know which leg you're going to be animating. You know, you've got the contact poses here, passing poses. So very good for a lot of reference, you know. I know you have YouTube nowadays, you can go and see, but still, you know, posing out in the side view, different ways of having passing positions, you know, up or down, depending on the walk, leaning backwards. So this is really, really good. You know, you got the little double bounce walk, the cartoony walk. Talks about, you know, the passing position is down, or the middle one instead of up, and you've got 2 straights. So it's a bounce. We'll do that with the Thep Rig. We'll do that example as well. And then we have a front view, side view, where the hips are. So very good for reference. Do's and don'ts. So yeah, for walks, these are really good variations of walks. Again, the front view, the hip, the lines are very important. Angled out. Having the leg come out is all brilliant stuff. So there's a lot of reference. A lot of reference here. And then it talks about the foot, the arc, the foot follows. Which is great. So it's good for just having a quick view at certain stuff. Again, hands, you know, arc coming down. Generally, you know, you get a gist of what the arcs of the foot are and the arms are, depending on what type of walk you do, you know. So just a great variation. And you got all this like secondary motion and stuff that you can put in. Clothing, skirts, you know, women walking is completely different. Different pose, walking backwards. That all good stuff here. Plenty of drawings here, you know, it's very visual. And at the end, it's nice to give a little summary of vitalities of getting a decent walk in, you know. Talks about attitude as well, or what the character, which is really important, you know. you don't want to just animate the rig. You want to animate the character. You know, what's the person feeling? Is he sad, lonely, happy, thoughtful, conceited, confident? You know, there's so many variations. You know, is it the silly drunk, the self-pity drunk? You know, there's so many different first-time drunk. So it's good to have a read over, so you can know what to think about when you want to do a walk. And some other walks here, you know, more personality in these ones. You know, a little strut. Sneaks, you know, it's got sneaks as well. These are really good. Look at this. You've got a key pose here, then the passive position goes forward, then the contact position comes back. So there's nice examples there. You can just follow these pose by pose here as well. If you look here, classic example here, look, all you're doing is seeing this change in the spine and the front and the line. All these contrasts, that's what makes the pose. You know, you can see it really clearly because of these different lines. So you're looking at shapes and lines. You want to create that contrast, then your animation will stand out. Because if you just got it in one position all the time, I mean, you can get some, but depending on, like, you might have the back like that all the time, but then the head might be moving up. You know, that is fine too. You can read it, but in terms of sometimes you have to do that in sneaks where it is like that, but you can show a lot of character with that. But when you do lines like this, back reversals, you know, like a C shape that way and a C shape that way, then a straight line, you can really see the contrast in animation. And again, poses here, these are sneaks. This is what I'm talking about, tiptoe sneak. This is all in one position, but that works, you know. You got the hands up and everything, you know exactly it's a sneak. Here, you know, these are really good examples you can do and practice. You know, everything's there for you. Again, the bouncing ball. Look at the way the arc's going. Then you get there, it goes down. You got a whole cycle here to practice. You can practice all of this. It's great stuff to practice, especially, you know, for beginners when you're beginning. I use this book a lot when I'm beginning. I come back from it time to time, but not as often. Once you start getting experience, you know, and obviously you've got the internet, you've got YouTube, you've got reference on there. Yeah, you can get filming yourself, you got reference. So, you know, you get more of your own stuff in the game, in your work, but very good for starting. Runs, jumps, skips. Again, runs, exactly the same thing as the walks, front view, side view. You know, I won't spend too long on this, but you can see you got the start, contact, up in the air, when both feet are up in the air in the run, the key pose, you know. Different types of runs, funny ones, with the butt in the air, front view. You know, nice clear drawings as well. These are simple, but really nice and clear. Upward, so great examples here you can use and work from. Female, running, a guy who's slightly overweight there running with the belly, fast one there, you know, it's brilliant, good stuff here. Running forward, hands out, nice one here. As you can see, you know, you got your line and then you got your line here, yeah, because the weight is here. So that's really good reference there. Because you step, weight shift, step, weight shift, step, weight shift, summing up runs. So these are good to have a read for. I think this is The Thief and the Cobbler, is it? I think so. One of my friends worked on The Thief and the Cobbler, Tanya Fenton. I did my MA with her. She actually worked with Richard Williams. And I had the pleasure of meeting Richard Williams' daughter when I was in the States, Claire Williams. It was really nice to meet her in Santa Monica. She works there. She was working at DreamWorks. I don't know where she works now, but yeah, she was a friend of Tanya's. Lovely, lovely person. Sorry, coming back to here. Yeah, jumps. These are like jumps, skips. So, you know, all these are very good for beginners to start to just delve into animation and the different variations of walks, runs, sneaks, jumps. We'll do a jump in our exercises with Thep, the character, the rig that you've seen in the previous videos of mine. I'll put a link up in the description so you can check that out. So we'll do pose to pose like this, and we'll get a jump going. Marbridge was very famous back in my days. We buy these books, and there's still, even now, there's grids behind you, see, so you can see where they've moved in space. Flexibility, just going over, this is more lip sync stuff, and hand breakdowns and gestures. How this as well, like how it goes down and it drags, overlapping action, and then it catches up. So the main action is already there, and then the cheeks follow and then come back. What else do we have here? Breaking of the joints. So as you can see here, the arm, you break the joints. You don't feel that, you don't see it, but you feel it. So it's one of those things where you do successive breaking of joints. So you might go break the wrist, and then it catches up like that, up, and then like breaking here, the elbow, instead of straight like this. It makes the animation look fluid and organic. Smack, it's like an insect on the desk, and you smack it. Again here as well, you're going like that. So you're leading, and then bang, break, bang. So it's like a wave effect. And the arcs you can see here, these are all good examples. How it comes up and then back down, nice little arcs. Again here as well, the paw comes and then it lands, so it's breaking of joints. So there's some really good examples in here. These are more face shapes, silhouettes, you know, instant read, profile readability, again, very important, silhouettes. You can see here, if you look at this, look at that, the negative space around here, you can clearly see, for example, if that negative space isn't there, it just looks like one whole thing here, you know, just like one big blob. So here you can see that little gap is all you need, even the arms, that little gap is all you need to read the pose. Great examples there. You got weight exercise, this is really good for weight. You've got straight back, then it's arched, then it curves. See if you notice, they're all C shapes. Then the reverse C shape, and then straight. So these changes in your poses are what's gonna make, and the timing is what's gonna make the animation believable. Those different changes in shapes and struggling and what have you. You know, and this is really good too. You don't just go and pick it up and say, he's like got a story behind this, you know. This weight is heavy, what shall I do? Have a walk around, let's try this angle. That giving little stories is really good as too. I'm glad weight is here. I never understood why weight wasn't in the 12 principles of animation, or 13, you know. But weight is so important, because that's what makes a character believable, as well as the performance. Again, look at this cup. Perfect example of the bouncing ball object, right? And then you have just objects there, pushing and pulling. Again, weight. Again, it emphasizes a lot on the red areas, you know, the main areas where you want to see the change. Some more examples. Anticipation, action, reaction. There are only 3 things in animation. So this talks more about anticipation, which is important because then you see what the character's thinking before he does the shot. So he's going to wind back, classic example, punch, big huff puff, and then puffs. Again here, piano, great examples here. Accents, this is more talking, but there's more, I think there's better references on YouTube for that. You know, you can actually see people doing it, especially in 3D, animating in 3D. I guess you could use these as good exercises for animation. Timing, staggers, wave and whip. So this is like the wave with the wave principle, like, you know, if this is the root and something stops, then everything catches up and follows. Very important. Again, covered in Preston Blair's, very similar. You know, we'll go forward, then come back. Could be cloth, hair, anything. The whole body, upper body, from the hips to the upper body. Dialogue. Again, you can find better reference on YouTube for that kind of stuff. The books can be a bit harder, but if you actually see someone doing it, it's easier. Dope sheet and stuff. Acting for animation. Yeah, this is more to do with thinking about what the character is thinking. What's it doing? I mean, you're always doing that, even in games. You're always thinking about that because you want to be animating what the character is thinking, not just moving the limbs and the joints and the hips. Why? Always, you know, is the character moving for a reason? It has to always be moving for a reason. What's the motive? Don't just move things, but give it a reason, give it a thought. Then that's how your character comes out. How your character becomes, the animation becomes believable. And then it talks about symmetry and twinning, which is really common for beginners. You know, we all have fallen victim to this. How to offset arms and what have you. There is a time where you could do that. There's times where you could twin, but more openly, you want to keep it like offset here and there and delay one, then bring the other one up, kind of thing. And with this edition, animals have come in. So they've added this extra section here about how animals move. Again, good for reference and posing. You know, that's fine. But you can see, you can use these legs and see how each one steps in. Have a look on YouTube as well, like the general spine pose. When a character, you know, the passing position, contact positions. So it's good, it's really clear the way this has been written about that. And then you've got stuff on directing, if you want to do that kind of stuff, the process of it, storyboards. And in conclusion, where it talks about, I guess, the secondary thing, the extreme positions, planning drawings. They're basically saying to plan your animations before you do it. The ingredients. Start with the things that you know, and the things that are unknown will be revealed to Rembrandt. Rembrandt was genius. That's a nice way to end, nice quote to end the book. So yes, I hope you enjoyed that mini review of the book. This book has helped me when I was starting off animation. You know, one of my first books I bought. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that review. Like I said, it's a good book. It's a lot of basic stuff in there, good stuff to go over again and again when it talks about mechanics of walks, runs, jumps. There's also some dialogue shots in there. It is mainly towards 2D stuff, but you know, that relates so well to the 3D. The principles are all the same. So it's a good book I used to go back to time. And when I first started animation and I first had the first couple of jobs, I would always go back to it for reference for walks and stuff. But nowadays, you know, you do have YouTube and other references you can choose from. But this is always good to have by your side, handy in a way. I've used less and less of it, obviously, as I've got more experience. But I have been, I tend to go on YouTube and look at references, or I film myself, which is probably the best stuff you can do, right? Or take reference from different parts and put them together and create something unique as well that way, with a bit of your own twist to it. But it is a good book for starting off. I would recommend it, just to have a nice read over it, the history of animation, going through the exercises, the walks, how they talk about breakdowns, or very similar to Preston Blair's. But I liked Preston Blair's a bit more because it was a bit more, I just found it more fun, you know, the illustrations, the drawings and what have you. Here it's good, I just found it a bit more mechanical, the kind of stuff, and it was some areas, like I said, I mentioned in the review, came across a bit didactic here and there, like, you know, this is the only way. But there are different ways in which you can approach animation. You just have to find your method and your workflow and learn from others and pick up as you go on. So you will develop your own method in the meantime. Similar to like acting, right? Method actors, they end up finding the method that they prefer that will work. So as animators, you will find a method of workflow that you will get used to and learn from your co-workers, which is probably the best way to start developing your own kind of skills to animation. In conclusion, I do recommend it for beginners. It's a nice little background of introduction to animation. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, if you think anybody else would find it helpful, please share and like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and the like button should be down there as well. And I really appreciate people subscribing. It means a lot when I see it every week. You know, it's a small channel, like I always keep saying, but I am noticing people are subscribing and liking and commenting. It's really helping me, and it's giving me suggestions to do more videos as well, which you would like to see, which I will do further down the line. So thanks again for all your support. It does mean a lot, and I will see you in the next video. Like always, have fun animating, and I'll catch you soon.